Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Let me introduce myself. My name is Anisa Setiawati and PM is 19220254 from class B3 English Education. Okay, here I will explain about definition of interpreting, historical background, conference interpreter, liaison interpreting, and different role and status. Okay, the definition of interpreting. Interpreting is the oral transfer of message between speaker in different languages. Interpreting is thus one of the oldest of human activities, and the role of the interpreter is arguably one of the oldest of the profession. Historical background. The first written proof of interpreting dates back to 3000 BC, at which time the ancient Egyptian had a hieroglyphic interpreting. The next widely known use of interpreting occurred in ancient Greece and Rome. For both the ancient Greeks and Romans, learning the language of the people that they conquered was considered undignified. Furthermore, during this era and up until the 17th century, Latin was the lingua franca, or the language of diplomacy in Europe, and therefore all nations had to have some citizen who spoke Latin in order to carry on diplomatic relations. Throughout the centuries, interpreting became more and more widely spread due to a number of factors. 1. Religion. 2. Age of exploration. And 3. International Labour Conference in Geneva, Switzerland in 1927. Type of interpreting. Number 1 is conference interpreting, and 2 liaison interpreting. Conference interpreting, a significant advance for conference interpreters, came immediately after World War II, when at Nuremberg were crimes trials. New technology allowed experiments with simultaneous interpreting, whereby interpreters work from soundproof booths and relayed their message through earphones to listeners in the courtroom. Number 2, liaison interpreting. It has not always been seen by conference interpreters as an area of interpreting in its own right, but rather as a residual arm of language work at best, or multilingual welfare work at worst. In the post-World War II decades, several social and economic development led to its growth. The two main areas of development were in international business context and less spectacularly but more persuasively in relation to immigrant and indigenous population who did not speak to the dominant language of their society. Next, different in role and status. Just international conference interpreters gain their status from the reflected status of the clients they serve. So do licensed interpreters in their varied work settings. The question of status and reflected status in turn very influence how their role and contribution are understood. Prevailing social and institutional norms will strongly affect the way in which interpreters' function is understood. In summary, the development in licensed interpreting has been subject to two very influential forces that continue to determine its status and the understanding of its role. Okay, the worldwide of liaison interpreting has been profoundly influenced by its own social settings of minority-majority relationship, identification with minorities and minority interests, and broader status issues. The conclusion is interpreting is activities communication that change language from short language to target language by spoken. Usually in interpreting there are two or more people that use the different language. Interpreter is a person who does the interpreting. The interpreter which is the language directly or in the same time or right then. Okay, that's all I can say. Hopefully useful. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.